Let's look more at the multiplication property of equality, and let's look at solving equations. Remember, you can multiply and divide both sides of an equation by the same number. And the last step in solving is usually division by the coefficient of the variable. I've listed the 4 steps that you generally go through to solve equations. The first one, and you should write these on an index card and memorize them. The first step, simplify each side by distributing multiplication and combining like terms. The second step is you have to get the variables all on the same side. You'll either add or subtract the smaller term to get it there. Step 3, get rid of any number that's added or subtracted on the side of the variable. You perform the opposite operation. This is called isolating the variable term. And usually, step 4 is divide both sides of by the coefficient of the variable. Let's take a few of them and work through. You don't always use all 4 steps. Sometimes you just use 1, sometimes it's 2, sometimes you have all 4. All equations are different. Now, example 1, negative 7x equals negative 49. We don't have to simplify on both sides. It's already simplified. We don't have to get the variable terms to the same side because the variable is all on the left. We don't have to get rid of any number that's over there with the variable term. What we do have is to divide both sides by the coefficient of the variable. The coefficient of negative 7x is negative 7. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 7. The negative 7's cancel. I have just plain old x. Negative 49 divided by negative 7 is a positive 7. And you can see I've solved my equation. X is equal to 7. For 2, I do have to isolate the variable term. I've got a negative 1 over there with my variable of 3x, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides of the equation. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. The 1's will cancel. I'll end up with 3x is equal to 27. And now, I'm at step 4. I have to get the coefficient of this variable, divide, to get rid of the 3. And the reason I'm having to use division is the 3 is multiplied times that variable. It is a coefficient. So I'm going to have to divide to get rid of it. I'll divide over on the right. The 3's will cancel. They become 1s. X is now equal to 27 divided by 3, or 9. Let's try example 3. We just need to isolate this variable term. It's a negative 1x, or negative x. I've got a plus 4, so I'll subtract 4 from both sides. And I'll have negative x is equal to negative 24 minus 4 is a negative 28. Now, I've got x alone, and it's 1x, but it's not positive, so I'm going to have to divide by the coefficient of the variable term. The coefficient of it is really a negative 1. So if I divide by a negative 1, negative 1's will get rid of each other. I'll have just plain out x. Negative 28 divided by negative 1 is a positive 28. Example 8, let's isolate this variable term. We're really on step 3. I want to get rid of a positive 5 by subtracting it from both sides. So I'll have 8t all by itself, and it'll be equal to 5 minus 5, or 0. Don't let the 0 bother you. Go back to the variable side. What do you have to do? Well, the last step. I have just a coefficient of the variable term, so I'll divide by that coefficient. And I'm going to divide both sides by 8. That gives me t is equal to, and you have to ask yourself, you've got 0 in a division problem. Is it okay or is it a no? Remember, you put an O beside the number 0. You either form the word okay or the word no. If you've got okay, your answer is 0. If you formed the word no, your answer would be undefined. Number 5, let's combine these terms over here on the left, 4a plus a, which is 1a, right? So I've really got 5a, and that's equal to, I've got negative 1, minus 1, minus 2. They're all negatives, so I'm going to add them together and have a negative answer, right? It's going to be a negative 4 plus a 3a. Now, I need to get my variables together. I'm going to work with the side that has the smaller number of a. It's the 3. I'll subtract it from both sides. I have 2a is equal to negative 4. And now I'm on step 4. Divide by the coefficient of the variable term. Remember, you always look to the variable side to see what to do next. A is now equal to negative 4 divided by 2, or negative 2. Example 6. Simplify on the left. 8 plus 4 gives me 12. Over here on the right, I have to distribute. Negative 6 times 5x is a negative 30x. Negative 6 times negative 2 is a positive 12. Now, I want to get rid of anything that's with my variable term. I want to isolate it. So I've got a positive 12. I'll subtract it. Subtract 12 from both sides. This is a 0 over here on the left. 8 is equal to a negative 30x. Now I divide by the coefficient of the variable term, which is negative 30. Those negative 30s become positive 1x. What's it equal to? Well, it's equal to 0 divided by a negative 30. Is that okay? Well, I formed the word O. I put O beside 0. It's either going to be okay or no. And since I started with an O, I know it's okay. The answer is 0. Example 7. Let's get the terms together. I've got 4p minus p. Over here on the left, that'll give me 3p. Minus 11, that's equal to, and I have a 2 and a negative 20 that can be combined, which would be a negative 18 plus 2p. Let's get our variables together. We'll subtract the smaller number over here, which is 2p. I'll subtract it out. I end up with p minus 11 is equal to negative 18. And now to isolate the variable term, I'm going to add 11 to both sides. Those will cancel. P is now equal to negative 18 plus 11, which is going to, I've got to subtract them and keep the sign of the larger. It's going to be a negative 7. Let's take a look at number 8. First, we can combine terms over here on the left. I've got negative 19 plus 74. Well, it's the same as 74 minus 19, but I might need to write that down so that I don't make a mistake because I don't have a calculator. So I've got 14 minus 9 would give me a 5. I borrowed, so it's 6 minus 1, 55. I've got 55. Positive 55, because that was the bigger number, is equal to, let's distribute. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Now, everything's combined. Let's isolate the variable term by adding 15 to both sides of my equation. 15 plus 55 will give me 70. These cancel, and I have it's equal to a negative 5x. I solve it by dividing by the coefficient of the variable term, which is a negative 5. And those negative 5s will turn into a positive 1. Negative 5 divided by negative 5, remember, is positive 1. Positive 1x is just x. 70 divided by negative 5. Well, if you can't do that in your head, write it down. 70 divided by 5, or negative 5, it's going to go 1. And that'll bring down 2. It's going to be 14, isn't it? It's going to be 14. Remember, positive divided by negative, odd number of negatives, negative 14.